Well, good morning and welcome to the next instalment of our account of John James Taylor's visit to the Unitarian Churches of Transylvania in 1868. So we've heard some of his analysis of the theology of the church and of the history of the church, and we'll continue with a bit more of the history, and this leads into his arrival in Transylvania. So we'll continue our reading. Some years ago, another attempt was made to crush the Unitarian interest, which, like the former, proved unsuccessful. On the insidious pretext of sustaining the respectability of the body, the Austrian government refused its sanction to the existence of any school or college which could not produce evidence of the possession of what they considered adequate funds to support it in efficiency, well knowing that the actual resources of the Unitarians could not meet the demand, and hoping by this stroke of policy to close up forever the fountain of their spiritual life. The consequence was an earnest appeal from the Transylvanian Unitarians to their co-religionists in England and America for help, with a prompt and liberal response from both those countries, which not only relieved the Transylvanians from their immediate difficulty, but has had the effect, I believe, of placing their whole scholastic system on a firmer and more solid basis ever since. This too was the commencement of a closer intercourse between the Unitarians of Transylvania and England, which I trust will from this time forth ever become more cordial and fruitful. It has led, among other results, to the sending of young men from Transylvania to complete their studies in Manchester New College, some of whom are now filling positions of importance in their native country. The old policy of the Austrian government, which has of late happily changed, was one of insult and annoyance. For some reason or other, the title of bishop, which is given to the head of all the recognised religions in Transylvania, was kept in abeyance among the Unitarians. The prohibition, whatever it was, has now been withdrawn, and the restoration of his ancient title to their ecclesiastical head was the occasion of great rejoicing, as an indication of recovered position and equal status with the other recognised religions. As a further expression of the friendly feeling of the present government, Bishop Kriza has recently been made a Geheimrat, a privy councillor, which, though merely a titular distinction unconnected with any function or emolument, has a value for the same reason that gave weight to the resumption of the title of bishop. Though nominally on the same footing with the Calvinists and the Lutherans, the Unitarians have been less favourably treated. The Calvinists, if I'm not mistaken, have been allowed to retain their ancient endowments and are comparatively rich. The Bishop of the Lutherans, who embraces all the Saxon districts and as being a German element have been fostered by the Austrian government, enjoys a handsome allowance of £700 or £800 a year and an episcopal residence at Hermannstadt, furnished by the state. All this has not worked pure evil to the Unitarians. It has thrown them on their own resources and stimulated them to efforts which have quickened their inward life. Though they are the least numerous and wealthy of the four Transylvanian churches, I was assured by an impartial witness that they are the most liberal and active in support of their own institutions, and that their clergy stand high as compared with those of other denominations, for the purity of their morals, the simplicity of their manners, and their fidelity to their ministerial duties. As there is as yet no state provision for popular education in Hungary, the maintenance of its schools and colleges devolves upon each religious denomination. And where there are no local endowments, which at present are few and small, these have to be supported by the voluntary contributions of their members. This self-imposed tax for education falls heavily on some of the poorer class. To replace the heavy losses incurred a century ago by the Unitarians, benefactions are continually dropping in from wealthy and zealous individuals. I heard of several already left, and some more that were expected, so that on the whole I conclude that the legal status and the social and financial condition of the Transylvanian Unitarians stands on a firmer basis and is more generally prosperous now than it has been for the last 100 years at least. In visiting the different institutions of the Unitarians at Klausenberg, one discerns the not obscure traces of a system conceived on a grander scale in more auspicious times, when the wealth and nobility of the country were on their side, and there was the possibility of their religion becoming under native princes predominant in the land. The college at Klausenberg still retains something of the groundwork of an university with its 4 faculties. Of these, that of theology is now the principal, though arts and philosophy are cultivated. And I believe there is still a school of law connected with it. That of medicine has been separated and removed elsewhere. Among other public benefits projected by the present Liberal government, one is the foundation of a proper university at Klausenberg. This will of course absorb all the secular faculties and leave theology to the care of the several denominations. In that case, the Unitarian College will become what Manchester New College now is, simply a school of philosophy and theology, providing for the preliminary discipline of its alumni through its connection with a larger and more general institution. Unitarianism in Transylvania, notwithstanding the simplicity of its doctrine and ritual, has preserved to this day some features of the old episcopal discipline. The churches under the superintendence of the bishop are distributed into 8 circles, Kriza, over each of which presides an archdeacon, who carries out within his particular district the more general supervision of the bishop. In the 16th and 17th centuries, the Unitarians appear to have had gymnasia in every principal town in the country. Most of these have disappeared amidst the persecutions and devastations to which the Magyar race, and the Unitarians more especially, were long exposed from the Turks and the Germans. 3 only now remain. The principal one at Klausenberg, and the other 2, that at Torda, which last year had 164 scholars, and that at Kerestor in the secular land, which had 173. In these gymnasia, the pupils board and lodge in the schoolhouse. The college and gymnasium at Klausenberg were built between the years 1793 and 1806 from the benefaction of Ladislaus Suchy, already mentioned. In the 2 institutions there are 9 professors and 10 teachers, 4 elementary and 8 gymnasial classes, beside a 3 years theological course. The salaries are very small, even allowing for the greater cheapness of living. Each professor has 420 florins per annum. The teachers only 70 florins each, but then they are boarded in the college and are permitted to take private pupils. When youths have gone through their course at Torda and Kerestor, they pass on to the higher classes at Klausenberg. The teachers are for the most part supplied from theological students who finish their course. At Klausenberg during the last year there were 298 scholars, exclusive of 36 divinity students. At present throughout Transylvania there are 106 Unitarian congregations, with as many ministers and schoolmasters. For to each church a school is always attached, and there are sometimes smaller congregations in connection with the larger ones. The number of children of both sexes educated in these congregational schools amounted, according to the school report of last year, to 5,032. It was under these more favourable circumstances and brighter hopes that I was invited by the Unitarians of Transylvania to attend the tercentenary of the foundation of their church under a general proclamation of religious freedom at Torda in 1568. The interest and significance of the occasion will perhaps be the better understood and appreciated from the foregoing rapid survey of Unitarian history in Transylvania. Accompanied by my daughter, I arrived in the last week of August at Großwardein, a considerable and apparently flourishing town on the eastern verge of the great plain of Hungary, nearly in the centre of the vast space enclosed within the Carpathians. So far we'd be conveyed by steam over land and water, but at Großwardein the railway abandoned us, and I engaged a comfortable carriage with a pair of horses to take us a 2 days' journey to Klausenburg. Here first we distinctly realised to ourselves how far we were from home, and that we were completely among strangers. Our driver could only speak Hungarian, of which we understood not a word. Our route lay through a district inhabited by Wallachs, and it was only when we came across a person here and there of better education who could speak German that we were able to ask a question or obtain any information. But the roads were excellent, macadamised as in England, the country beautiful, and if at the inns we roughed it a little now and then, especially in the arrangements for sleeping, yet the interest and novelty of the journey abundantly compensated for small inconveniences. We were glad, however, to re-enter civilised life and look once more on the faces of friends and hear again an intelligible speech on reaching Klausenburg. We were agreeably surprised with Klausenburg. It is a clean, bright, cheerful-looking town with well-paved streets, good shops, cafes and handsome houses, and a considerable portion of its old walls and gateways still remaining to invest it with a lingering air of former grandeur. In the winter, when it is the residence of the Transylvanian gentry and nobility, with its casino and its theatre and a lively interchange of private gaieties and hospitalities, it must have all the attractions of a small capital. Shortly after our arrival, we were waited on by a former pupil and a gentleman whom I had previously known in England. They had been expecting us at another hotel, where they had kindly prepared everything for our reception. They were soon joined by the bishop, Kriza, a man of beaming countenance and the most engaging manners and address, simple and unassuming as a child, but with that quiet, unconscious dignity of gait and bearing which often accompany genuine simplicity of character. He spent the evening with us, and we had much free talk on subjects of common interest. Our medium of intercourse was German. He gave us a cordial invitation to dine with him the next day at 1 o'clock. In the afternoon we were to proceed to the country house of our friend Mr. Paget, 25 miles from Klausenburg and 5 beyond Torda. And we'll leave our story here and continue tomorrow. Thank you for watching.